My grandmother grabbed my wrist on her last night alive and said, "The man who raised you isn't your father, and there's $60,000 that's been yours since you were born." Then she closed her eyes, and I spent the next 6 months finding out she was telling the truth about both things. I need to back up, because nothing about that night made sense to me at first. I was 30 years old, sitting beside my grandmother's hospital bed at 2 in the morning, and I assumed the medication was talking. She'd been slipping in and out of clarity for days. But her grip on my wrist that night was firm, and her eyes, for those few seconds, were completely present in a way they hadn't been in a week. She said my mother had an affair the year before I was born, with a man named Robert Holloway, and that the man I'd called Dad my entire life had known, and chosen to raise me anyway, and that the family had agreed, decades ago, never to tell me any of it. She died 4 hours later. I didn't know what to do with what she'd said. Part of me wanted to dismiss it entirely, a dying woman's confused final words, nothing more. But she'd said a name. Robert Holloway. And she'd said a specific number, $60,000, like it was a detail she needed me to have before she ran out of time to give it to me. It took me 3 weeks to work up the courage to ask my mother directly. She didn't deny it. She cried, and she told me the affair had happened during a separation from my father, the man I still consider my father in every way that matters, and that he'd chosen to raise me as his own without hesitation, and they'd agreed together that I never needed to know. I understood, even through the shock, why they'd made that choice. What I didn't understand yet was the $60,000. That part came from my Aunt Denise, my grandmother's younger daughter, when I finally asked her directly. Robert Holloway, it turned out, had known about me. He'd never tried to be part of my life, but he'd set up a trust for me shortly after I was born, a genuine attempt, however incomplete, to take some responsibility. $60,000, meant to be released to me at 25. My grandmother had been listed as trustee. When she became too ill to manage it herself 12 years ago, Denise had taken over. I turned 25 5 years earlier. I had never received a cent, and until that hospital room, I hadn't known the trust existed at all. Denise's explanation started reasonable, and fell apart the longer she talked. She said she'd meant to tell me when I turned 25, but the timing never felt right. She said some of the money had gone to managing the account over the years. When I pushed for actual numbers, it came out in pieces. A car repair for her son, a portion of a family vacation, a down payment supplement for her own house 4 years earlier. The trust that should have held $60,000, untouched, for over a decade, now held $18,000. I confronted her with my mother present, because I needed a witness who already knew the family history and couldn't pretend surprise at any part of it. Denise didn't cry the way my mother had. She got defensive, said I was fixating on money during a time when I should be grieving my grandmother, which felt like exactly the kind of thing someone says when they know they are wrong and would rather you feel guilty than angry. I hired a lawyer 2 weeks later. It turned out that because Denise had been formally appointed as successor trustee, this was, again, a civil matter rather than something law enforcement would pursue quickly, and untangling 12 years of trust mismanagement took time and records Denise didn't want to produce. We eventually reached a settlement. She repaid what she could liquidate immediately, roughly $11,000, with the rest structured as a payment plan that will take years to complete, if she stays current on it at all. I never contacted Robert Holloway. I don't know if I will. Learning his name on my grandmother's last night felt like receiving a key to a door I'm still not sure I want to open, and the trust he set up, however well-intentioned, became just one more thing that was taken from me before I even knew it was mine. What stays with me isn't actually the money, even though almost $42,000 of it is gone for good. It's that my grandmother used her last clear moments to give me the truth, because she knew no one else in the family ever would have. She spent 30 years keeping a secret to protect people she loved, and she spent her final hours undoing that silence, because some truths, I think, she couldn't let herself die still carrying.